I know this is a personal fault of mine. I am
Oh,
quite.
come on, Patty. Do we really want to go here?
Uh oh. I am quite poor at and sometimes embarrassed by praying in front of others. If asked to lead in prayer, I will oftentimes choke up and blurt out some hurried cliché. Since I'll now be living with a roommate, what are some good ways to overcome this fear?
Well, as with any phobia, the best way to try to overcome it is to defy it. So, what you might consider doing is saying grace in restaurants, and especially when you're eating alone, that kind of thing. You might talk to your roommate and say, you want to pray, but you're embarrassed to do so in front of other people. Would it be a problem for her? Don't be afraid to guilt her.
Yeah.
Feel free to guilt your roommate. The whole Yiddish mama thing. No, it's all right. I'll just sit here in the dock. Don't you worry, darling. You go right ahead.
Hmm.
Don't be afraid to guilt her. And the more you do it, the more you pray in public, the easier it'll become. So if you're given that task for whatever reason, don't shy away from it. Do your best, choke through it, say the cliches if that's all you can think of. But the more you do it, the easier it will get. And that's my advice. It's like overcoming any phobia.
Yeah. Well, I have had huge experience with fear and anxiety. So I'm the go-to guy for this one.
Mm.
And I have to say, to master fear, you must become fear. You must bask in the fear of others. And men fear most what they do not see.
So she should wear a bag over her head?
No, I am the Batman. No, actually, that's Ra's al
Okay,
Ghul.
that's all helpful. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for playing, ladies and gentlemen. You lose. You do not gain $5,000. You do not win the trip to Brazil. Thank you very much for playing indeed. No, I'm sure you had some real advice to offer, but I don't think that was it.
No, that was a movie quote. That was Ra's al Ghul from Batman Begins. But no, yeah, it sounds like it's confidence issues in general and not being comfortable in your own skin. And but as Charles, right again, I went to actually a therapist for social anxiety, and as Charles rightly said, the way you overcome it is exposures. I would always get homework, and it's about some social event where you just interact with people, and it's a you know and just reporting your experience. And slowly but surely, you are more comfortable. You become more comfortable and confident, and you discover that the world isn't going to end in a certain social encounter. That you aren't going to just simply crumble to pieces as much, despite what you might think. Um, but I think one important thing, there's a religious component to this, which is lack of confidence is kind of like lack of confidence in God. Like God is going to take care of you. That's very important. And so pray for confidence. Pray for confidence in God. And I think you will get confidence. Go to adoration. Well, I know you go to adoration, Patty. I know that. Um, yeah. So, but do that more. And when you feel anxious, go to the Blessed Sacrament. That's what I do, actually. I go to the Blessed Sacrament whenever, you've got stormy waters going on and you're very fearful about things. And what does Professor Biersack say? Place one drop of the heart of blood on thy tongue and fear no evil? Something
Yep.
like that.
Well, on thy heart and fear no evil.
Yeah, on thy heart and fear no evil. Yes, there you go. So, um, litany of humility. Again, huge recommendation. Litany of humility, because that's what you're praying for. You're praying because humility is about not being fearful and not asking for things from this world, not asking for, not needing understanding from people, or not being afraid of contempt, even. That's all right there, packed into the litany of humility. That's one of the most powerful prayers, I think, in order to be happy, too. It's so basic, the litany of humility. I mean, man, I can't stress that prayer enough. So, that's my 2 cents. Any closing things, Charles? Any closing things?
No, I agree. I mean, the only other thing I can add is what my father said to me when I came home from a party when I was 14, and he asked me, "Are you nervous meeting new people and going to a crowded room filled with folks you've never met before?" And I said, yeah, I am actually." And he said, "Well, that's exactly how everyone else feels, so you don't have to. Let them do the worrying for you."
I will say, again, I've said this before, it's very important. I think there's so much more anxiety nowadays because we have so many things. We're used to everything being on our terms, everything being
Yeah.
comfortable, everything
Yeah.
being pleasure inducing. So then when we have a situation where we don't have full control and we're not extracting pleasure of it and something's expected from us, we're not confident anymore because we're so coddled in a sense with music through our earphones, things to condition the machines to condition the air, fast food, TV on demand, noise on demand.
And also, you have people who have grown up now who have never had a lot of, shall we say, involuntary interaction with other people.
Yeah.
Or to put this another way, when I was a kid, we had gangs in the neighborhood, and I don't mean gangs like 18th Street. I mean bunches of kids that hung out together. Now, why were we together? Because of geography. What do we have in common? Some things maybe more with this one, less with that one. Some people we particularly didn't like. There were bullies. It was the whole gamut of things. But you had to deal with kids. And you lived in a different world from the adults. There was a pecking order. It was a whole other world, and you had to somehow navigate through it, knowing that you were pretty much on your own. Now, that if things got wild or out of hand, yeah, you could talk to your parents and intervene, but that was the nuclear option. The point was you did not want to involve adults in this other world you lived in.
Yeah.
And that's gone. The whole forging your identity against a bunch of other kids who are doing the same thing, that's gone. Even in school, the whole schoolyard thing is gone. I mean, what they're talking now about bullying, for instance. Bullying was a fact of life, and you had to deal with it. And, I certainly had to. You learned that if you were bullied and you let it occur, then you'd never know any peace.
Yeah. Another way to frame it, I think, in terms of why everyone's so anxiety ridden is people, especially particularly young men, don't have as many opportunities to discover the strength within themselves. Because everything's so coddled. If things were more difficult, they would be able to see that they are strong and that they can handle this and that they don't fall to pieces.
Well, and there's been a real failure of fatherhood.
Well, that too.
I mean, my dad was the model for me. He still is. And very often I try, when something comes up, I try to think, what would Dad have done? And sometimes that's useful, sometimes it isn't. But the point is that if you come from a broken home, or you come from a home where the father is, shall we say, passive, it's just not the same thing. And unfortunately, we have a huge plethora of those setups today. So, it's funny. The band Green Day?
Yes, I know the band Green Day.
Well, they did a song called Jesus of Suburbia.
Ugh.
Now, I have to say that I found this song almost incomprehensible. But one line jumped out at me. All the moms and brads. I knew exactly what that meant.
Hmm.
I knew the brads were the mommy's boyfriend figures. They're not fathers. And very often they come and go. You know, they're the male-esque figure that's occupying the master bedroom with mom for the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. The moms and brads. I knew that immediately. And it is a crime that so many kids have been subjected to such a, for want of a better word, upbringing.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can only tell you that if you get married or you are married, remember that your children are more important than you are. They're more important than your happiness. They're more important than if you feel fulfilled. They're more important than if you fulfilled your bucket list or lived up to your dreams, or if you suddenly realize you're no longer in love with this person next to you. You know what? Tough. It's not the fault of the kids. Now, I mean, obviously there are times when, I don't know, the husband's a monster or the woman's a shrew and this, yeah. But by and large, most often, they're not life-threatening, they're just annoying. But see, you chose to marry that person. Your children did not choose to be born. There's a difference. And you and your spouse have an advantage that your children lack. You're the, for want of a better word, adults. Adults. Now, if you find yourself in the situation of not being a father or a mother, if you find instead that you're an uncle or an aunt or a godfather or a godmother, and you're the innocent bystander to a horrific situation, or a grandmother or grandfather, do the best you can. And sometimes that's not much. Sometimes you can't. But to the degree that you can make a difference in a kid's life. And that's so very, very important. And you know, the nature of things, you know, you're living here, your daughter and her current Brad are living with her 6 kids in Kansas City. Well, all right, there's only so much you can do. It's true. But whatever you can do, do it. Even using the new technology. It's if nothing else, if the kid sees his relation once every week on Skype, well, it's better than nothing. It's not great. It's suboptimal, as they like to say, but it's a darn sight better than zip.